My own son, the boy I raised, the man I poured my entire life into, looked me straight in the eye and told me to get out of my own home. But they had no idea what kind of fire they had ignited within me, or how meticulously I would orchestrate their downfall. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. My name is Evelyn, and for 72 years, I considered myself a woman who had lived a good, simple life. I was a registered nurse for over 4 decades, working countless night shifts, double shifts, always putting my patients first, and always putting my family first. After my dear husband Thomas passed away far too young from a sudden heart attack when I was just 50, it was just me and our only son, Michael. Michael was my world. Every penny I earned that wasn't spent on necessities went towards his future. I ensured he had the best education, sacrificing holidays, new clothes, even foregoing a much-needed new car so I could pay for his university tuition in full, guaranteeing he graduated debt-free. When he met Sarah, a charming, albeit somewhat materialistic young woman, I welcomed her into our small family with open arms. I even dipped into my carefully guarded retirement fund, the one Thomas and I had started together, to help them with the down payment on their first starter home, a lovely little place that later sold for a tidy profit, a profit they kept entirely, of course. That was fine, I told myself. They were starting their life, building their nest. I was happy for them. My home, the one Michael and Sarah so callously demanded I leave, was more than just bricks and mortar. It was the house Thomas and I bought as newlyweds, a modest 3-bedroom ranch with a sprawling garden that was my pride and joy. We raised Michael there, celebrated Christmases, endured heartbreaks, and built a lifetime of memories. After Thomas died, that house became my sanctuary, filled with his presence and the echoes of our shared happiness. I poured my love into it, painting, gardening, meticulously maintaining every corner. It was paid off, completely debt-free, a testament to decades of hard work and frugal living. I always envisioned it as a family hub, a place where Michael and Sarah, and eventually their children, would always feel welcome, a place that would one day pass down to them, a legacy of love and stability. Then, about 3 years ago, Michael called me with some unsettling news. Sarah had lost her job in marketing, and Michael's startup wasn't quite taking off as planned. They were struggling, facing foreclosure on their current, larger home. My heart, as always, went out to them. "Mom," Michael had said, his voice tinged with a desperation I rarely heard, "we don't know what to do. We might lose everything. Could we possibly move in with you for a little while? Just until we get back on our feet?" My first thought was of my peaceful, quiet routine, my small but cherished privacy. My second and overwhelming thought was of my son, in distress. "Of course, darling," I'd said, without a moment's hesitation. "My home is your home. Your family." I even suggested they take the master bedroom, insisting I was perfectly comfortable in the smaller guest room. I wanted them to feel at ease, to have space to breathe and plan. I wanted to help. The little while stretched into 3 years. In those 3 years, the dynamic slowly but surely shifted. My meticulously kept garden slowly started to be neglected as Sarah found gardening too much effort and Michael was too busy. My quiet evenings, spent reading or knitting, were replaced by their loud TV shows or constant phone calls. My small, independent life gradually became dictated by their needs. I cooked for them, I cleaned, I often babysat their 2 young children, my beautiful grandchildren, whom I adored despite everything, so they could go out for date nights or networking events. I even used a significant portion of my savings to replace the roof, upgrade the kitchen, and install new windows, all at Sarah's insistent suggestions about improving the house value for their future. "It's an investment, Mom," she'd often say, smiling sweetly, "for all of us." I'd believed her. I wanted to believe her. The inciting incident, the day my world shattered, happened on a Tuesday evening. We were all at the dinner table. I had cooked Michael's favorite pot roast, something I always did when I felt a vague tension in the air, hoping to soothe things with comfort food. The kids had just been put to bed. Michael cleared his throat, avoiding my gaze, and Sarah, always the more direct and less emotional one, leaned forward, a pitying look on her face that I now recognize as pure condescension. "Evelyn," she began, "Michael and I have been talking, and we've made a very difficult decision." My heart sank. I knew that tone. "We've decided it's time for us to finally have our own space, to really settle down and raise our family." Michael nodded, pushing his food around his plate. "And, well, this house is just not big enough for all of us anymore. We need more room, especially with the kids growing." I blinked, trying to process this. "But this is your home, too," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "We've made it work. I can move back into my old room if you need more space for yourselves." Sarah sighed, a theatrical, put-upon sound. "No, Evelyn, you don't understand. We're thinking of a fresh start. We're going to sell this house. It's a fantastic market right now, and with the upgrades you've made, we can get a really good price. Enough to put a substantial down payment on our dream home, a much bigger place, with a proper garden, and maybe even a pool." She smiled, a triumphant, almost predatory gleam in her eyes. "Sell this house?" The words felt alien, impossible. "But this is * my home. It's paid off. It's where Thomas and I built our lives. It's my legacy." My voice trembled, tears pricking at my eyes. Michael finally looked up, his face etched with something that looked like guilt, but I now know was just annoyance at my reaction. "Mom, please don't make this difficult. We've thought this through. You're getting older, and this house is a lot of work. We found a wonderful assisted living facility for you, just a short drive from here. It's very modern, with lots of activities, and they take care of everything. It'll be so much easier for you." Assisted living. They were evicting me from my own home to sell it, to fund their dream home. And they had already picked out where I would live out the remainder of my days without even consulting me. The sheer audacity, the cold-blooded calculation hit me like a physical blow. My breath caught in my throat. I felt a dizzying wave of nausea wash over me. The room started to spin. I gripped the edge of the table, trying to steady myself, trying to hold back the sobs that threatened to tear through me. "But this house, it's mine," I repeated, my voice now a broken whisper. "It's always been mine." Sarah laughed, a short, sharp, dismissive sound. "Evelyn, technically, yes, the deed is still in your name, but we've been living here for 3 years, investing our time and energy, making it our home. And honestly, it's just not practical for you to stay here alone. We need to move on. We need to create our own future." Michael just stared at his plate, silent. The silence was deafening, more painful than any accusation. My own son, my only child, was letting his wife do this. He was complicit. I don't remember much of the rest of that evening. I retreated to my small room, the one I had given up for them, and sat in the dark, the words echoing in my head. "Sell this house. Assisted living. Not big enough for all of us." Nimes. The betrayal was so profound, so absolute, it felt like a gaping wound in my soul. I cried until there were no more tears, until my eyes were swollen shut and my throat was raw. I felt utterly, completely broken. I had given everything, asked for nothing in return, and this was my reward. This was the gratitude of my flesh and blood. But as the first rays of dawn crept through my window, something shifted within me. The deep, agonizing hurt began to crystallize into something colder, harder, a quiet rage. I looked at the framed photo of Thomas and me on my bedside table, his kind eyes smiling back at me. I remembered his unwavering devotion, his belief in me, in our shared dream. He had worked so hard to ensure I was secure, that our home was protected, and now his son, my son, was trying to snatch it all away. No, absolutely not. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about honoring Thomas's memory, about protecting what was rightfully ours. The tears dried. My hands, which had been trembling with grief, slowly stilled. A calm, terrifying resolve settled over me. They wanted to play dirty. They wanted to take advantage of an old woman. They had underestimated me. They had mistaken my kindness for weakness, my self-sacrifice for foolishness. They had no idea the strength I possessed, the decades of quiet observation, of methodical planning, of enduring patience that lay beneath my gentle exterior. I would not be evicted. I would not go to an assisted living facility, and they would certainly not profit from my life's work. This was the turning point. I wouldn't just resist. I would dismantle their entire greedy scheme, piece by painstaking piece. My first step was to appear utterly defeated. I became quiet, withdrawn, almost docile. I nodded meekly when Sarah spoke of our plans for the house, when Michael brought home real estate flyers. I pretended to pack, moving a few items into small boxes, creating the illusion that I was resigned to my fate. They, of course, took this as confirmation of their success, a testament to how easily they could manipulate me. Their guard dropped. They became more open, more boastful about their grand plans, their future wealth. This, I knew, would be my greatest asset, their arrogance. While they discussed renovations and open houses over dinner, I was working. My nurse's training had ingrained in me a meticulous attention to detail, a talent for organization, and an iron will. I started by methodically going through every document I possessed. I had decades of records. In my old cedar chest, tucked away under embroidered linens, I found the original deed to the house, clearly stating my sole ownership, purchased with Thomas as joint tenants, now entirely mine after his passing. I found every single receipt for every major renovation, every repair, every upgrade, including the new roof, kitchen, and windows they so blithely claimed as their investment. I had my bank statements showing the withdrawals for those payments. I even had old photos documenting the house's condition before their improvements, which, truthfully, were often just cosmetic changes on my dime. My next move was to consult with a lawyer. I couldn't risk going to just anyone. I needed someone sharp, discreet, and with a strong understanding of property law. I discreetly asked around, making calls from my old flip phone, one I only used for emergencies and kept hidden. I found a highly recommended family law and property attorney, Ms. Davies, who came with glowing reviews. I set up a private consultation, telling Michael and Sarah I was going to visit an old friend. Ms. Davies was exactly what I needed. I laid out my entire story, presenting her with my organized folders of documents. Her eyes widened as I detailed Michael and Sarah's plan. "Evelyn," she said, her voice firm, "you have an ironclad case. Not only is this unequivocally your property, but they have no legal right to sell it, nor to evict you. In fact, if they've been using your funds for improvements without your express written consent for their sole benefit, that could even be considered elder financial abuse." The words were harsh, but they filled me with a strange sense of validation. She outlined a strategy. First, secure my financial assets. I opened new, separate bank accounts at a different institution, transferring all my savings and investments. I changed all my beneficiaries on insurance policies and investments, removing Michael and Sarah, and instead setting up a trust for my grandchildren, ensuring that my legacy, when it eventually passed, would go directly to them, bypassing their parents entirely. Then came the legal muscle, and Ms. Davies drafted an airtight new will and a living trust, cementing my ownership of the house and outlining its future disposition. We also prepared an official eviction notice, not for me, but for Michael and Sarah. It was a bitter pill to swallow, preparing to evict my own son, but the alternative was far worse. We also gathered evidence of their financial behavior. I started keeping a meticulous spreadsheet of every utility bill, every grocery expense, every contribution I had made versus what they had put in, which honestly was next to nothing. I even subtly recorded some of their more egregious conversations about selling the house and my impending move to the assisted living facility using a small voice recorder I bought online. It pained me to do this, to spy on my own family, but they had forced my hand. This wasn't a game. This was my life, my home, my dignity. Meanwhile, Michael and Sarah, completely oblivious to my quiet storm, continued their escalation. They started bringing real estate agents through the house, often without giving me much notice. They would redecorate rooms, moving my cherished antiques into storage, or, worse, giving them away to charity without asking. They even started packing some of my personal belongings, labeling boxes with Evelyn's old things, as if I were already gone. One afternoon, I walked into the living room to find Sarah holding up a framed photo of Thomas and me, laughing with a real estate agent. "Oh, this old thing?" she'd said, waving it dismissively. "We'll be getting rid of all this dated decor, of course. We're going for a more modern, minimalist look for the staging." A cold, hard knot formed in my stomach. They were erasing me. They were erasing Thomas. But their brazenness only fueled my resolve. Each perceived indignity was a brick in the wall I was building around them, a fortification of my plan. The final act of their escalating cruelty came just a week before they planned to put the house officially on the market. Michael came into my room, a condescending smile on his face, holding a thick folder. "Mom," he said, "we need you to sign these papers. It's just a formality, transferring some old ownership details so we can list the house properly." Sarah's lawyer drew them up. He pushed a pen into my hand. My heart pounded. I scanned the top document, a quitclaim deed. If I signed it, I would be signing away my legal rights to the house. This was it. This was their final, desperate attempt to steal everything. I looked up at him, summoning every ounce of my acting ability, feigning confusion. "Oh, Michael, darling, my eyesight isn't what it used to be. Could you perhaps read the important parts to me? And is Sarah's lawyer really the best person for this? I thought we should have my own lawyer look at things, just to be safe." He rolled his eyes. "Mom, it's just standard paperwork. Don't be difficult. It's for the best. We need to do this quickly to catch the market." Sarah, ever impatient, appeared in the doorway. "Just sign it, Evelyn. We don't have all day. We have an appointment with the agent." I put the pen down. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice shaking slightly, but with a new, steel-like edge they hadn't heard before. "I won't be signing anything until my own attorney has reviewed it." Their faces fell, a flicker of alarm, quickly replaced by anger. "Your attorney? What are you talking about?" Michael demanded. "The attorney I retained," I replied, standing up, my posture straighter than it had been in years. "Because as you pointed out, Michael, my eyesight isn't what it used to be, and I need someone looking out for my best interests, which, it seems, you and Sarah are no longer doing." Their stunned silence was the first taste of true victory. The climax arrived precisely 1 week later, on the day they had scheduled the official open house to show off Tama Home to prospective buyers. They had spent the morning fussing, polishing, staging, acting like proud owners. I had spent the morning quietly preparing. At exactly 1 p.m., just as the first few potential buyers were beginning to mill about the living room, Ms. Davies arrived, not alone. She was accompanied by a stern-faced sheriff's deputy. Michael and Sarah, in their crisp new clothes, were in the entryway, beaming, when Ms. Davies and the deputy walked in. Their smiles faltered. "Excuse me?" Sarah said, her voice annoyed. "This is a private viewing. You can't just barge in." Ms. Davies, a picture of professional composure, held up a stack of documents. "I am Ms. Rebecca Davies, attorney for Mrs. Evelyn Hayes. We are here to serve these documents." She handed a thick envelope to a suddenly pale Michael and another to a bewildered Sarah. "What is this?" Michael stammered, his eyes scanning the first page. His face drained of all color. Sarah snatched her envelope open, her eyes darting over the legal terms. I walked calmly into the entryway, standing beside Miss Davies, a quiet, resolute figure. All chatter in the house ceased. Prospective buyers watched, confused and uncomfortable. "It's an eviction notice, Michael," I said, my voice clear and steady, devoid of any tremor. "For you and Sarah. You have exactly 24 hours to vacate my property." Sarah let out a shriek. "Your property? This is our house." "You old hag, you promised this to us. You signed papers." "No, Sarah, I did not," I corrected her calmly. And no, I never promised this house to you outright. I told Michael it would be his one day, yes, but not under these circumstances, and certainly not with you forcing me out. The deed is in my name, as it always has been. Your attempts to coerce me into signing a quitclaim deed were unsuccessful, as you very well know. This is insane, Michael yelled, finally finding his voice, though it was high-pitched and frantic. You can't do this. We live here. We've invested so much. Your investment, Ms. Davies interjected, her voice cutting through the rising hysteria, amounts to a few cosmetic changes for which Mrs. Hayes has all the receipts proving her expenditures. And as for your claims of ownership, the original deed, Mrs. Hayes's last will and testament, and a newly established living trust, all unequivocally prove she is the sole owner. You, Mr. and Mrs. Hayes, are merely tenants at will, and that will has now been revoked. The deputy stepped forward. I'm afraid it's all in order, sir. You need to vacate the premises by 1 p.m. tomorrow. Any attempt to resist will result in your arrest for trespassing. Sarah's face contorted with fury. You can't. We have nowhere to go. You'll ruin us. You ruined yourselves, Sarah, I said, looking her directly in the eye, feeling nothing but a profound emptiness where my love for her once was. You tried to take what wasn't yours, to betray the very person who sacrificed everything for you. This is simply justice. The next 24 hours were a whirlwind of screaming, accusations, and frantic phone calls from Michael and Sarah, begging, threatening, then begging again. I did not waver. Ms. Davies handled all communication, reminding them of the legal consequences of noncompliance. My grandchildren were, thankfully, at a friend's house, spared from the ugly scene. At precisely 1 p.m. the next day, the deputy returned. Michael and Sarah, looking disheveled and defeated, with a few suitcases and boxes, were escorted out of my home. They left a trail of chaos, a few broken items, and a sense of profound, unsettling quiet. The fallout from Michael and Sarah was swift and brutal. Word spread through our small community like wildfire. Friends and neighbors who had always known me as a kind and generous woman were horrified by their actions. The real estate agent, witnessing the scene, quickly dropped them. They had no down payment for their dream home, no place to go. Their once impressive social standing evaporated. Sarah's attempts to find a new marketing job proved fruitless. Her reputation for greed and callousness preceded her. Michael's startup, already struggling, finally collapsed under the weight of his personal scandal and lack of focus. Their relationship, built on ambition and materialism, crumbled under the immense pressure, devolving into bitter accusations and blame. I heard they eventually split, each blaming the other for their catastrophic downfall, moving back in with their respective parents in disgrace, left with nothing but the clothes on their backs and the shame of their actions. I, on the other hand, felt a strange, liberating sense of peace. The house, once filled with their noise and their avarice, now felt truly mine again, but it was also tainted. The memories of Thomas were there, yes, but also the echoes of betrayal. I realized I couldn't truly reclaim my life in that same space. So, with Ms. Davies's help, I put the house on the market. It sold quickly and for a very good price. With the proceeds, I didn't buy a grand estate or embark on a lavish lifestyle. That was never my way. Instead, I bought a small, charming villa nestled on a quiet hillside overlooking the azure waters of the Mediterranean. It's not extravagant, but it has a beautiful little garden that I tend myself, and a balcony where I can sip my tea and watch the sun set over the sea. I've joined local clubs, started painting again, something I hadn't done since before Thomas passed. I volunteer at a local animal shelter. I've made new friends, kind, genuine people who appreciate quiet companionship and honest conversation. It wasn't about revenge in the end, not really. It was about justice, about reclaiming my dignity, my home, and my peace of mind. It was about showing them, and myself, that kindness is not weakness, and that love should never be taken for granted. My grandchildren, when they are old enough, will inherit the trust I established, ensuring they have a secure future, free from the manipulations of their parents. I occasionally receive letters from Michael, filled with apologies and pleas for forgiveness, but the trust is broken beyond repair. My heart is at peace now. I am Evelyn, and this is my story of reclaiming my life. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.